Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Frenzy podcast. Our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald, joining us once again. Guys, first off, we got to talk about the Detroit Tigers and the All-Star game coming up in just a bit. We had 4 Detroit Tigers get named to the All-Star team for the American League, and Gleyber Torres, Javier Baez. Blanking on the rest of them, Tarek Skubal, obviously, and then we also had Riley Green make it in the outfield. So, again, 4 Tigers. I think, Dean, you said you were betting on about 5 or so. So
I think, 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or
maybe
5.
Will Vest. No.
Yeah. I guess as a total, having those 4 Tigers, I mean, you guys okay with that? Do you think maybe there should have been more? We'll get into snubs in a little bit, but just, I guess, the overall number of Tigers having the best record in the American League. Lots of different guys playing super duper well so far in the first half of the season. I mean, 4 seems about right, or maybe a little low.
I mean, it does seem right. I mean, they are tied for like the most that are going there. I think the Mariners have 4 as well. So it's not like they got snubbed as a team. They did get 4 people there. Obviously, there's a few names that have been going around this week. Zach McKinstry being the biggest one, making the most recent push. Can't miss his name if you're following anything on social media right now for the Tigers. He really has had a season that could probably make him an all-star game. I think the biggest problem with him is that he doesn't have a position necessarily.
Right.
So that's kind of made it hard, and he's also just not a household name. I mean, I saw a thing of his and Jazz Chisholm's like stats right next to each other, and you could compare them to where they were almost even in the categories. So it's like, it really is like one of those things where it's popularity and fans vote people in, and it's not like their stats are that crazy to where it hurts anything. Obviously, you guys know my guy Dylan Dingler. I wanted him to get in there. He has started to actually kind of fall off a little bit towards the All-Star game here, so that probably didn't help his case, but it's Cal Raleig's the guy anyway. It should be starting in that position. So honestly, if you want the guy, Dean, I'm with you. The guy you've been praising the entire time, Will Vest, I think is the one that probably should have made it.
Yeah.
That didn't.
Yeah. I think Will Vest should have made it. He's had a great, obviously, first half of the season. But no, I think 4 is right. I think maybe 5. I thought they could have got 5. Obviously, snuck another one in there. But the 4 guys that were selected, obviously, very deserving, having great seasons. Baez becomes the first Major League player to make the All-Star team for 2 different positions. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, it's very deserving. It speaks to the Tigers and what they've done in the first half to have these All-Stars. And obviously Skubal, we don't know right now if he's going to be starting on the All-Star game. We'll talk about that later. But no, it's great to see the representation that the Tigers have in the All-Star game, and looking forward to that next Tuesday.
I also want to mention Casey Mize's name. I think that he might have got snubbed. Like, I mean, really, when you look at his stats and how good he's been, especially the last 4 or 5 times he's been out there, I mean, it's hard to argue that he's not one of the best pitchers in the American League, too. I think the fact that Skubal is on this team and that's all that, everybody talks about, not just in Detroit, but people talk about him around the majors now, that might have, kind of pushed Casey to the side and how good he's really been as a number 2 guy. I mean, on some staffs with the numbers he has put up, he would have been a number 1. Obviously, his strikeout rate isn't as high as you'd like. Maybe there's, some stats of the BABIP that would be different, I guess, and with on other teams, or maybe he'd have some less good luck, I guess, that he's kind of had with some balls in play. But for the most part, he's been a really, really good pitcher this season, and it's been awesome to see him as a 2. Would have liked to see either him or Will Vest get the nod, but unfortunately,
I think Torque made a late push. Right?
Yeah,
he's
for
been
sure.
Playing well the last couple of weeks and hit some home runs and doing some things. So I think he obviously was a candidate as well.
Every time that it feels like Torque is gonna go away, he seems to go on these 1 week, 2 week benders where he starts driving in some more runs, which is great because that means that he's fixed. So it seems to be. I mean, where are we, almost 90 games in now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, anybody that hits 21 home runs, I think that you could argue that they could be in the All-Star game, especially when he's driven in as many runs as he has. So I think I saw something about Riley Green and Torque being the 2 guys in the Tigers organization that have driven over 50 runs in the first half or something like that. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy to see that those 2 did that.
Yeah. And I would like to spend a little bit of time, obviously, talking about Javi Baez because, again, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show, just about we didn't really know what to expect. Probably up until this year, probably almost every single Tiger fan would say that he was been underwhelming, an underwhelming signing for the team. But now making that All-Star team, really filling in where the Tigers needed him in the outfield and really just doing a whole bunch of different things for this team. I think a lot of praise really goes to just how good he's been and really just an amazing turnaround from the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's big that he spent the time in the offseason working on the things he needed to do at the plate, right? He wasn't as patient. He made a couple of little swing adjustments and with his stance and everything, and I think that really kind of helped him propel him into what he's doing now. he's been the spark plug for this team. I think people kind of feed off Javi, and then he's been a capable outfielder as well, and filling in when he can. And so he's just made a lot of timely hits, and he's just done a lot of the little things to help the Tigers get to this point where I think I predicted 60 wins by the All-Star break, and they're approaching that right now.
Again, for me, with him, it's one of those situations where the stats are comparable. I would argue there's a couple people on this team that should have made the All-Star game, maybe even over him, to be honest. His numbers are really, really good, but it's not like he's been any better, I guess, than Zach McKinstry maybe or a Dingler. But because
name
center field, exactly. That's where the popularity contest comes into it and kind of gets him into the game, because everybody remembers Javi Baez from the Chicago Cubs days. So it's still awesome to see him do that and see him make this game. I mean, at this point, this $160 million contract, felt like it was going to go to complete waste. At least he's had a first half that was doable of him being able to be named an All-Star. So. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and it's also funny that he's playing center field, because when was the last time he played there before Parker Meadows was in the lineup? So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's awesome to see him make the game, but it's also great to see him be a part of this team and be able to do things. I just still don't understand why people pitch to him. He still swings those sliders sometimes. It seems like he gets more pitches over the zone to hit now than ever, and he doesn't really miss them when they've been in the zone this year. You have to wonder last year. I will never believe that the reason he was swinging at the sliders because he was hurt last year. But it does seem like overall he's more athletic and maybe able to get to some of those fastballs he wasn't getting to, or wait on some of those curveballs because his hip is in a better position now than it was a year ago. So I think that overall the combination of what you said, Dean, where he kind of got some changes in his stance, and then also where he was able to get healthy with the surgery in the offseason has definitely helped him a lot this year.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And, let's switch over now to Tarek Skubal, of course. We don't know exactly just yet whether or not he will be starting for the American League in the All-Star game, but you got to think that he probably will be. And, I was doing a little bit of digging, just kind of, when the numbers kind of started coming in, and I was looking a little bit more at just kind of the season that he's had, and even last year. Found out he's the same age as me, which was kind of honestly a little, I would say shocking, but God, makes you wonder, what am I doing with my life? Because he is out here just dominating, and we take it all the way back a couple weeks ago to that Sunday night baseball performance, and it feels like he's a guaranteed lock, but obviously, we're not in charge of deciding that situation.
Yeah, no, I was listening to 97.1 The Ticket. Jim Costa used to be around here in Grand Rapids, good friend. He does a show in the morning there. They do a conversation with AJ Hinch every morning, and they talk to AJ, and he said he recently had talked to Aaron Boone in recent days here about kind of the decision, because Max Fried is the other one who's kind of getting the other possible nod to start this game, which, yes, by the numbers would be absolutely outlandish, but what you have to remember is that for a guy like Aaron Boone, this is his player, and not only is it his player, but he's going back to a place in Atlanta where he spent a lot of years.
Yeah.
And right now it's a really tough decision he told AJ to make just because of that. It's either basically, if you're Aaron Boone right now, it's either the rest of the MLB is going to come at you and be like, why in the world are you not starting Tarek Skubal? Or it's going to be all the Yankees fans that he has to deal with on a more regular basis saying, why would you not start our guy when he goes back to Atlanta? So, yeah, either way, it's one of those things. Terek did kind of bid for himself to want to be a starter in this game. Obviously, he wants that nod, but said he wouldn't be heartbroken if it doesn't happen. It's one of those things where it's like, how much does it really matter? I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on the person. But yeah, other than wins, Max Fried has 11 wins, 2.27 ERA. Skubal's is better than that. 111 strikeouts. Skubal's are way higher than that. And his whip is also better. So the stats and numbers, I'm sure if you were to put them side by side all the way down and everything that people measure nowadays in baseball, it would probably be Tarek that has all those. So he should get the starting nod. Will he? I don't know. We'll see what Aaron Boone decides to make with that decision.
Yeah, no offense to Max Fried, but but you have to start the best pitcher in baseball
on the planet.
The stuff that he's doing is just incredible, and to not give him the nod and not give him that recognition and let him start, I think would be preposterous. I mean that's a big word, but I'm just saying. Skubal's been great, and these are moments in guys' careers that they remember forever. I started the All-Star game in 2025 or whatever the case, and that's what you kind of work for, and to be a dominant pitcher who gets that nod. So, yeah, I think it'd be an injustice. How about that word? If he did not start the All-Star game.
No, for sure. And what he's done with all the, when you have all these contract negotiations going on in the background too, and he's still able, he kind of talked about how winning for him was one of the bigger things that kind of keeps him away from that a couple nights ago, where he doesn't really have to think about it. It is one of those things where it's that has to be so hard to not focus on that when you have that much potential money coming in the future years and everything, which is obviously a big topic around Tiger Town anyway. So either way, it's awesome to see him get to the game, but you want to see him start this year because I felt like last year he got snubbed when he didn't get to start that game a little bit. So yeah, he deserves it this year.
And guys, I kind of push it back and always remember that Sunday night baseball game a couple weeks ago with Tarek Skubal and just the show that he put on. It kind of made me start thinking about some other sports figures that have had that kind of dominance where it's must-see TV almost. You kind of have to tune in because you're going to watch greatness. I thought about a couple years back when James Harden was putting up 30 points per game over like a 30-game stretch where you just knew every time he stepped on the field, stepped on the court, he's going to put on a show. You just have to tune into that. And so I think that kind of plays into just the popularity and just how dominant Skubal has been. It's been crazy. I don't know if you guys have kind of been able to equate this sort of level of dominance to really anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like obviously he's must-see TV. If you look at a couple of NBA guys, I think about would be probably Steph Curry.
Yes.
Steph Curry, like you always expect him to perform. He's obviously known for his 3-point shot, but like he's just a fun guy to watch. And then if you look back, I don't know how many years ago it was, Russell Westbrook was a walking triple-double that one season he won MVP. Like every game you can pencil in for a triple-double. And I think that was a stretch of dominance, like being able to do all those three things consistently on a nightly basis was pretty impressive to me, just remembering that, everybody was like, always, wondering, hey, what did Russell Westbrook do tonight? Oh, another triple-double. Same thing with Steph, 5, 6 3-pointers, sometimes 7, 8, 9, whatever the case may be. So like I would go to those two guys as far as what you're talking about, Phil, and then football, Tom Brady. Tom Brady was another one who just, everybody wanted to watch, see what he was doing. In every game, it was 2, 3 touchdown passes and 300 yards, whatever the case may be. So I would say those guys, if we're looking at, in the last 10 years, would kind of be, replicating or what Tarek's doing right now.
Right. I mean, you could go as soon or as close as Tiger Town with Justin Verlander when he was on the mound. Like, that was somebody that everybody wanted to tune in to watch back then. I mean, you wanted to see him pitch. It wasn't just Detroit Tiger fans.
Yeah.
But, it's just one of those things with Tarek where he is that good. I mean, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast we did. The numbers for ESPN Sunday Night Baseball have been going up every single week anyway. They went out the roof for that game when Skubal was pitching. I think people started to hear about how he struck out, 5 of the first 6 batters or something like that. And people started to tune in more and more to watch it because you see so much about him on social media. But if you don't have the FanDuel Sports Network package to watch him pitch, you might not be able to see him pitch that much. Finally getting him on a national stage like that and just having it all work out perfectly like that, people just had to watch, it felt like, and it was pretty awesome to see. And I mean, that's where if you're a Tigers fan, it's like, who knows what's going to happen after next season. But the thing actually you kind of brought up earlier, Phil, with him getting close to turning 30 now, being at that age.
Pushing 30.
It's one of those things where it's like in sports that is actually an old age or it kind of gets to that point. And he obviously wants this gigantic contract. So every time you're a Tigers fan right now and he takes the mound and you're going to watch him pitch, you should just enjoy it because there's no guarantee at the end of next season that it's going to be the same thing. So it's been unbelievably fun to watch right now, and it's good that he's finally getting put in the map. But I don't know. Sometimes when you think about it as a Tigers fan, it's like, man, everybody knows how good he is now.
Right.
It's kind of tough when you got to start competing with those big market teams because he's not a secret anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Definitely hoping that he gets the start for the American League in the All-Star game. Time will tell on that. We'll probably be talking about that a little bit more as we inch closer and closer to the All-Star game. Definitely want to shift now over to the other baseball team here in West Michigan, the West Michigan Whitecaps. Of course, the big news out of there is the fact that the prospect trio of Max Clark, Jose Briseño, and of course Kevin McGonigal. I mean, they're moving up. They're going to the AA affiliate, the Erie Seawolves. Fun fact: I used to live in Erie actually, and have been to several Seawolves games. I actually got to sleep on the field one night.
Wow!
Yeah. So again, kind of all tying back together. But yeah, they're heading up there now. We kind of touched on it too a couple weeks ago. The fact that they would probably all be moving up together as a trio. I mean, that doesn't surprise you guys at all. It kind of makes sense for them to all leave kind of at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. They all obviously deserved it.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to the Whitecaps social media department. If you guys saw, they said, basically promoted, and then there was a picture on Facebook and Instagram of a ship with the Whitecaps
Yes,
logo
yes.
going down the Grand River. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
They're setting sail and they're going off to greener pastures in Erie, where Phil obviously spent the night there.
I don't know about greener pastures.
Maybe not greener pastures.
It's different pastures. I don't know about greener.
greener stuff.
But all guys, all three, obviously, we've talked about this at length, where they're just all very deserving, and I'm very interested to see how they do at Erie. And I think the Whitecaps are going to be fine. They're going to have to plug some holes, but for those guys, like I said, very deserving. And looking forward to seeing them in the Futures game on Saturday.
Yes.
Obviously, that's a great accomplishment as well. So, sad to see those three go. I think Whitecaps fans, we kind of knew this was coming, and sad to see him go.
Yeah, I mean, who needs Max Clark or any of those guys? You got Garrett Pennington, who came up and made his debut and drove in 2 last night.
Yeah.
So they've got new guys now. No, but I mean, honestly, it had to happen at some point. It was, I mean, honestly, I think if you're the Whitecaps and Capiccelli and everything, you're pretty happy that you got to even have him for that long and just kind of lock up the playoff spot and get there. But yeah, they still have a lot of talent on that team. I don't think it's like the end of the world for the Whitecaps, but it's awesome to see these guys get to move up the system and kind of keep going. I mean, last night they all had a single in their debut, at least a single. So Bersenio actually drove in a run. So yeah, it's they're already succeeding up there. I don't think it's going to take long for them to have success at that level. And the thing is about AA is like, once you get good at that level, you can move to the pros, because AAA is almost, one of those levels where it's kind of like some 4A players mixed in with some guys that might be, needing a little more time, the minors, to kind of perfect their swing or their fielding or whatever it might be. AA is one of those levels where if you're really, really good and stand out, you can't get called to the pros. These guys are obviously not going to get called to the Tigers this year with how good they are and where they're at, unless there was, a bunch of injuries that you can't foresee happening. But it will raise the question. I guarantee you, going into next year's spring training, it'll be, can Kevin McGonigal make this roster, out of camp, especially Gleyber Torres right now, who he's been great for the Tigers and he's been a very important part of this. He's also earning himself a very big contract right now. And I don't know if the Tigers are going to pay him that much money because of Kevin McGonigal being in their system. It's one of those things where it's like what they do right now at AA is so important for the future, because it'll help the Tigers, Scott Harris and AJ Hinch and all those guys up or down to Detroit. They can make a decision on where, they're going to go with this team and this roster based on probably what a lot of these guys do in AA this year. So it's definitely something to monitor and pay attention to. Even if you only were paying attention to them, they're West Michigan, like, oh, they're gone. Still should keep up with them if you're a Tigers fan, because they're going to be a very important part of this organization, unless something unforeseen happens here before the trade deadline. But I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, we probably likely won't see them move up to Detroit this season, just with how everything's been going. But again, they are just that step away, really. I feel like and I was lucky enough. My first Whitecaps game ever, I got to go and see their last home game over at LMCU Ballpark. So again, you could just see, they sold out the entire park. And I got to see Andy, of course.
That was cool, right?
Yeah, exactly. I went to see Andy, if we're being honest.
That's cooler than any of that.
Yeah, right.
That's cool. You guys went without me.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey,
they pay me to do it.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
Why I was there, but yeah.
Hey, next time when they're all back, maybe for a visit.
Let's take a trip to Erie.
Yeah.
Go down memory lane.
Hey,
with
you
Phil.
know what?
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. I do know some
Road
hot
trip.
spots over there still.
We're taking this podcast on the road.
Exactly.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
I've now looking forward to the Whitecaps now. John Peck obviously has been playing really, really well, so he's going to be one to kind of watch now going into the second half of the season. And Seth Stevenson obviously is still there. Peyton Graham has actually been playing pretty well. Pacheco's been there, obviously been there a few years. So they still have some veterans on that team and some young guys that they brought up. So I think the Whitecaps are going to be just fine. We'll see come postseason time if they can, win the Midwest League Championship. But no, I think they're going to be good.
Yeah, Pacheco had a couple great hits last night. He's still smacking the ball. I think this is really important for him and his career going forward in general, just because he's been stuck in West Michigan for so long. And, underneath all these three big players and, even Peck, who's had a great season, Pacheco really has been having a really, really good season, after kind of being somebody who was starting to maybe get forgotten about in like the prospect rankings and who he was. He was a very high rated player at one point. And he's been hitting a good amount of home runs, driving in runs. He's everything he seems to be hitting right now is going far. So, yeah, it's definitely somebody to pay attention to in the second half, and I really want to see what he can do now, because the difference is usually when you have these guys around you in the lineup, Javi Baez, I think, at the major league level has really gotten a lot from this. Like when they have to pitch to everybody else around you, you see better pitches. So we'll see what Pacheco's able to do, and maybe people start to look at him as more the deep threat and the guy that can hit it far. we'll see if he's able to handle it and keep that average where it's at. So that's the thing I'm probably looking forward to the most.
Yeah, I was going to ask because you wouldn't think losing your 3 best players would be a good thing, but this could potentially be a benefit for the rest of the Whitecaps and maybe even start building up their confidence a little bit, because I think we can all agree that we probably didn't expect these 3 guys to be here for the playoffs, actually. So now kind of getting that little bit of a jump start on preparing for that playoff berth, which they've already secured.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
I think one thing that's overlooked too is we don't talk enough about the Whitecaps pitching staff.
Yeah.
They have some really, really good starters and some good relievers on that back end that have done a really, really good job. You know, we talked about their offense and we talked about the big 3, but like their pitching has really helped them get to where they are as well.
Yeah, no, you don't win these kind of games without pitching. So even if you have all those players that get driving runs, as everybody will tell you, whenever I go to the games, they don't score that many runs, but they still won a lot of them. So that says that their pitching is doing good right there. So they definitely still have a good pitching staff and plenty of players in that lineup to keep runs generating and stuff. I think this is where Tony Capicelli is a manager at that level. It gets difficult sometimes because you have all that chemistry with those 3 guys. This is where you have to get everybody else to kind of mesh together and play as a team. So we'll see if he's able to do that and keep him going, but sometimes you can only do so much with how much talent you have.
Right.
But I think they still have enough talent in this team to win if they can all play together. So.
And you guys have obviously been to quite a few games this season, seeing these 3 players. I mean, I guess, I don't want to get too bittersweet here, but I mean, do you have a favorite memory from them being here? Or just, a moment, a game, just something that they've been able to put together during their time here?
Yeah, I saw Kevin McGonigal hit one well back. Like it was almost like not at the Founders rooftop because that's in foul territory, but it almost went past it. Like it was like just an absolute moonshot of a home run. So that was one of my favorite ones for sure. And then I think every time I got to watch Max Clark play center field, his arm I think is super underrated and is only going to get better. Like he really sells out when he throws the ball into the infield and he's trying to get somebody out. Like almost the whole body goes forward. So
and he covers so much ground in the outfield.
Yeah,
I've watched him several times. Like he's tracking down. He's so fast. He tracks down balls that you think are going to be in the gap. And obviously I work for the Whitecaps now and then, but I've seen him cover lots of ground in the outfield. And I think that's, a trait that you're right is very unnoticed at times.
I mean, imagine if it was Riley Green, Parker Meadows, and Max Clark in the outfield in the future. That is, that's a perfect world. Obviously Parker Meadows has to hit a little better than he has since he's been back from his injury to make that a thing. But yeah, that'd be insane. I mean, nobody's getting a cheap hit. In that outfield. So and at Comerica, you got to have that kind of outfield. So yeah.
For me, I've seen Briseño hit just some towering bombs.
Yeah,
he's just his power
when he was hot.
Yeah, when he was hot, he's hitting all fields too. Like he's the guy that he hits a lot of doubles and he singles. He's not always trying to hit the ball out, so he spreads the ball around a little bit, and I like to see that from him. And then McGonigal is just a pro's pro. He's just a really, really good hitter, and he works hard, and he's got a great glove at shortstop. One game, I think, a couple weeks ago, he made some amazing plays at shortstop. So defensively, he's just really good too.
And it's also just really nice to see. I mean, we News 8 has obviously done quite a few interviews with these guys, and just seeing how they handle themselves in these interviews. They just seem like, really good kids. So glad that they were able to make that step up and really perform maybe even over expectations while they were here in West Michigan. So we're definitely going to miss them, but definitely glad to see them moving on, and definitely be keeping up with them in Erie and potentially in Detroit sooner
I give the Tiger system props too. I think moving them all up at the same time, something we didn't mention, I think that's like a very good thing to do because those guys clearly love playing together. I mean, every time you interviewed them or talked about it, it was like they're inseparable. So I think that was a very good decision by them to do it that way.
Definitely. I can offer a little bit of advice for them though if they want to check out Waldemere. It's an amusement park up there in Erie, right on the lake. It's super beautiful.
Wow.
Definitely. I wish they came to me. I could have offered them so many different tips on how to enjoy their time in Erie, especially in the summertime. Perfect for them. Glad they're able to enjoy that. Before we go, guys, though, we did have some breaking news last week that we didn't really get to touch on, and that is, of course, the fact that Sparta High School just named a new head boys basketball coach in Lindsey Hunter, the former Detroit Piston. Obviously, having a former NBA player of that kind of quality, a two-time NBA champ, as your high school head coach is a pretty big deal. And Dean, I know you are a coach as well, so I mean, you can kind of speak to this probably a little bit better than I can, just about what having a head coach with that kind of pedigree brings to Sparta now.
I mean, just the experience that Lindsey has,
Yes.
I heard Lindsey talk last week and how he has coached at AAU, he's coached middle school, he coached high school, he coached in college. So he's kind of coaching's in his blood. And, he just likes to develop student athletes and get the most out of them. You know, he expects them to work hard, but like, yeah, can you imagine having your coach be, you know, a 2-time NBA champion?
Right.
You know,
Playing alongside Shaq and Kobe.
yeah, it's just amazing the stories that he has, and probably all the questions that these kids have, and you know the experiences that Lindsey's had, and just these kids are just going to probably soak in everything that Lindsey has to say, and learn from him and grow. And you know, obviously Lindsey wants to have a competitive team. Sparta, you know, had been probably middle of the pack through the years. You know, we actually at Tri-Unity did play them last year. So yeah, you know, I think more so he wants to develop them as good people, right?
Yes.
More than basketball players. And that's kind of what Lindsey is. Lindsey's a guy of high character. If you ever talk to him, or, you know, his foundation's obviously incredible, but he's just a good person.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the most important thing, that these kids are getting a really good person who's going to help them grow and develop as basketball players and people.
Yeah, I think they're going to be playing fast with really tough defense. If I had to guess, based off that.
He said that. Pace, yes.
That will probably be their style
true.
based off how he played in the NBA. He was a fun player to watch, but that was like right when I started being able to get into sports where I can actually remember it. So yeah. It was he was definitely a fun player to watch. And I remember his name all the time being around. So that's really cool for Sparta, because kind of like you were saying, they've always been middle of the pack, never really been a team that's been that good. So to be able to get that kind of guy in there to, you know, maybe turn things around and make him better. But I'm sure that's not the most important thing to him at the end of the day. It's probably just about giving back to the community and, you know, kind of helping these kids learn more and more about basketball. I'm sure he's going to keep up with more programs and camps and everything. He's kind of said, I did listen to some stuff on him. It just seems like he's like at that phase right now where he's trying to just give back in every way that he possibly can. So what a really cool idea to do this.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I mean, even, like, not only are you learning from an NBA vet, but you also, I mean, gosh, just being able to like sit in the locker room and hear some of these stories. I mean, that alone would probably get me to join the basketball team, or at least try out, just to even, you know, get the chance to hear what it was like playing with Kobe and Shaq. I mean, what was it like guarding LeBron, you know, when he was first coming into the league? I mean, just stories like that most people, 99% of us will never, ever know or really get to experience.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a school like Kennewick Hills. I feel like is like relatively similar to Sparta in that way. And it's like, basketball was never like the biggest thing at those schools. So to be able to get somebody like that to come into your locker room and talk to you every day, I mean, what a surprise. Like if you were a sophomore, going to be a junior, junior going to be a senior, you're like, holy crap, this guy's going to be my coach. Like that is just like, I mean, it'd be shocking anywhere, but just especially like there, like again, where basketball's not like the pedigree. They haven't ever been like the best team in the MHSAA or anything, or been around for state. That's crazy to get that as your coach. So just thinking of how I'd feel if I was a kid there.
They're going to have 40 kids try out, and then they're going to be like, hey, I got cut by Lindsey Hunter. Like they're going to be so like, that's going to be like the cool thing for them. Yeah. You know, they're
that's
just
probably something he's
gym.
Not thinking about when he's thinking about giving back. He's probably like, oh gosh, I really don't want to have that conversation.
And Phil, talking about the stories, I want to talk about a little personal thing. So years back, I had a good friend who was friends with Ben Wallace, and Ben Wallace helped the Grand Rapids, before it was the Gold, it was the Drive. Yep. So he was kind of part owner of that. So I had a chance one night, me and another friend, to hang out with Ben Wallace for a night over at Z's.
Wow.
And you talk about being able to like ask him things and him telling stories about playing against Shaq and everything. It was literally one of the most incredible nights of my life. As far as an idol that I looked up to and watched during their NBA championship run. So like, yeah, I can just imagine what these kids at Sparta are going to, you know, obviously be able to do kind of the same thing, and kind of hear these stories of everything that he's encountered throughout his career.
Yeah, that's insane that you got the chance to do that.
Oh
I don't know how.
Twice. I've done it twice.
Of all places.
It was awesome.
No, I mean, gosh, I don't know. I like Ben Wallace is obviously such an intimidating figure, but I'm sure he's really nice. But gosh, I couldn't imagine. Yeah,
he talked about how he would professionally like raced remote control cars.
Really,
which I never knew, and I was like, what? That's so crazy.
People always have those hobbies, man. I don't know if you, like
that's what he had.
That Netflix show, like Quarterback. I don't know if you guys are watching it. Yeah. But I just watched some of that last night, like Joe Burrow playing the piano. I had no idea. So it's just like the random. Like I think he said at one point, he was kind of just like, like I feel like everybody has something they do in their free time that nobody knows about, right? That's one of those things you never learn unless you talk to Ben Wallace at Z's, right?
100%.
No, or like Miles Turner and all of his Lego sets. I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw a TikTok, and he said he spent something like, I don't know, 40 grand or something like that on Legos, just building them and everything like that. Which, I mean, if you've got the money, I guess go for it, but I don't know.
know that.
It
Yeah,
made my
for sure.
girlfriend a little bit jealous, I think, seeing all those Lego sets. All right, awesome. Well, and as speaking of Lindsey Hunter, of course, we are lucky enough to be able to get the chance to talk to him later on this week. That is going to be part of our Daily 8 program next week over on Wood TV Plus. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more and getting an insight into what Lindsey Hunter is going to be bringing to Sparta High School, definitely encourage you to check in there and also be able to check it out over on our website, woodtv.com, which is where you can also find the Sports Frenzy podcast every single week with myself, Dean, and Andy. We are going to be bringing you the latest from sports, of course, across the state of Michigan every single week. You can check it out on woodtv.com as well as Wood TV Plus. Dean and Andy, thank you both so much for stopping by again. We'll see you guys again next week.